All right, moving on to episode 2, Arkangel. This episode should have been called Invasion of Privacy. I think that this episode is going to resonate much more with parents, and especially with newer generation parents, like the younger your kid is right now, probably, especially like it needs to be seen by a lot of new parents, I feel, because we're not far off. Now, I was going to say, I want to tell you, obviously, I think you saw, but spoiler discussion, so we're going to get into this. But people really need to pay attention to an episode like this, because even though it seems far-fetched a little, honestly, it isn't really that far-fetched. So when I was watching this, it genuinely made me reconsider my role as a parent. When I was a kid, we used to do whatever the fuck we wanted. I mean, when we would drive somewhere, we were just in the back seat. Like when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, we were just jumping around in the back seat, jumping from front to back, like whatever. When we rode our bicycles, we didn't wear helmets. We walked to school every day, by ourselves. We were out in the world always. Our parents couldn't get a hold of us. There was no cell phones. There was no nothing. Like, we're going out with our friends. All right, bye. And if you couldn't get a hold of us, you didn't know where the hell we were. It wasn't like cell phones. It wasn't like anything that we have now. And no kid I knew, died or anything. It was just outside of the typical kid shit. People got hurt randomly, like they do naturally as kids, or adults even, obviously, get hurt as well. But kids are going to get hurt. Kids play hard. They do what they do. And we want to protect them the best we can. But we are starting to get overboard with the protection and the invasion of the privacy. And thinking of like GPS locators on them and being able to see their vision when they're doing something and being able to filter out what they can and can't see. Like, I like how the character, the woman here, the mother, she sees that as a total weird, wacky thing at first, like the filtering out the negatives, but like almost instantly starts using it. And when she's using this thing, you can see the kid is having problems. Like when she's invading on her privacy, when she's overbearing, she's overprotecting her, she gets rid of the thing because the girl goes nuts as a little kid and starts cutting herself and hurting herself. And then she becomes like a normal kid. We get to see this transition. She's on the swing and she gets a little older, and then she's walking by the fence this way and that way. I thought it was a really cool shot selection just to show her aging. It was a really unique and cool way to do it. And this episode was directed by Jodie Foster, which I didn't know until it ended. And I was like, oh my God, Clarice. So then when her mother decides to start this thing up again because she's scared that she's lost and she wants to start it, she can't help herself but look and invade this girl's privacy. And it's hard because I sat back as a parent myself, and when she looks at her having sex for the first time, like she tries to disconnect herself at first. She's like, oh my God, my daughter's 15. I had to look up if this actress was 15 because I was like, if that girl's 15, whoa, girls are looking a lot older these days. The actress is 21. So I was like, oh, thank God, like that girl did not look anywhere near 15. But she gets like, that's horrible to see her daughter having sex, and like this is her first time and she doesn't know what to do. So she like awkwardly has to hear her be like, yeah, fuck me harder and whatnot, which would suggest that she's done it more than she has. Her mom just keeps turning it on at the wrong moments. And I'm sitting there like, she sees the heart elevation. She's curious. She's like, oh my God, is she in trouble? Is she this and that? And then she goes and she looks, and the guy who's fucking her 15-year-old daughter is now giving her cocaine. As a parent, my first instinct would be like, I'm going to beat the fuck out of this guy. He's not ever seeing my daughter again, for sure. But she really did want to only try it once. I'm not saying whether she would have became a drug addict or not, but we make these choices, and these are our choices as we start to age that we need to make for ourselves. But yes, parents are there for a certain extent. You know, they're there to guide us as best as they can, and it's hard because we've started to tip the scales on the wrong side of protection. We're becoming too overbearing. In this episode, I mean, all Black Mirror episodes for the most part are societal commentaries and prophecies for a future that we could see happening because of the way things are going. And this is not far off of where we're heading. I mean, we really do have GPSs in their phones that we can track where they are, and you know, we can get a hold of them at any moment by texting them now, and they have to call back immediately, and there's no privacy with that stuff, and they can go on their Facebooks and they can look into their messages, and they can, like, everything is documented now, and everything. We don't have, like, be able to see through their eyes, but I'm sure you could access the camera in their phone possibly. So we're not far off, and this is scary because you can see what it can do. Would it do this to every single kid? No, but this is a real I mean, they never take this overboard. They never make this overly dramatic just to be a show. Like, this all felt genuine. This all felt real. Like, this girl's life was being censored to the fact where she couldn't even see anything bad. So she starts cutting herself up to feel something, to see something different than the norm. I mean, we need to have emotions. We need to see negative imagery so that we can respect and like positive imagery. I remember seeing The Number 12 Looks Just Like You, one of the greatest Twilight Zone episodes that predicted the future very well of, you know, pharmaceutical drugs keeping us happy all the time and trying to make us beautiful. And you know, the girl in that episode is constantly like trying to tell them, like, don't you want to feel hate and anger and sadness? And like, why do you want to be happy all the time? Like, you need, you know, varying degrees of emotions for, you know, something new, variety, flavor. And she just didn't have any. She was censored from everything. And I felt for the little kid. And when she got rid of the thing, I was like, good. I mean, I knew it was going to come back later because this is a TV show and they're going to need drama. But I was like, oh, fuck, man. Like, this, I didn't realize it was going to be her much later. And when it was, I felt for both sides in a way, but more for the daughter for sure. The mom should have stayed the fuck out of it. But as a parent, having access to something like that, seeing my daughter doing cocaine, she just so happened to turn it on at the wrong times. I'm sitting there like, fuck, what would I do in this instance? So anyway, it kind of reminds me, this episode, especially in her like 15-year-old age, reminds me of something like Catholic school. I've dated a couple girls that went to Catholic school. I've known a few friends that went to Catholic school. And they keep them very, you know, repressed and coddled from society. And when they get out of there, they go hog wild. You know, it's like the Rumspringa for the Amish, where they go nuts. And they just want to go out and they want to fuck and they want to do drugs and they want to do whatever they can. Not all of them, of course, but there are those select few that when they get out, they're just like, they reject it and they go overboard with trying to make up for lost time. And it kind of felt like that here, where she's like, you know, she finds out that her mom's watching her and she runs away from home and she makes this risky decision of jumping inside a fucking truck with a trucker. She could be kidnapped, right? And that wouldn't have happened if her mom would have left her alone. So it was just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, I want to protect my kids so bad that I'm going to lead them into danger. Which, it sucks as a parent, because you want so badly to not let them make any of the mistakes that you did and protect them from everything. But you're not you unless you went through those things. Like, I wouldn't be me if it wasn't for all the shit that happened to me, all the dumb decisions I made. So it's very, very tough. I saw both sides, but as I said, I feel for the daughter more than anything. And, you know, her mom, the one place, I think, and this is why I feel for the kid more than the mom, one place where I was like, fuck you, was when she went to the store and she bought the emergency contraceptive. And ground it up and threw it in her drink without her permission, without her knowledge. Drugging your children without their permission. I mean, she put a chip inside her head before she even had the concept of what permission was. But wow, that, I was like, whoa, fuck you. That's some seriously awful shit to do to somebody. And, you know, at the end when she like beats her mother up with the pad, the iPad looking thing, and you know, it's all censored from her vision, and she runs off, like that scene where she's sitting there and or not sitting there, but when she's outside, she's looking for her daughter, and she's lost her daughter because of this overbearing protection, invasion of privacy that she's done. And they're flashing that imagery of her growing up. Like, I mean, I have 2 daughters that are my everything, and like, I know that feeling. Like when they're about, like, I've had my daughters choke, or I've had a minute where I thought I couldn't find them for a second, and you have these flashes, these moments, and you just see their childhood, and this girl went through that, and I fucking felt horrible in that moment. Like, oh, thinking back about my kids when they were born, that like in the opening when she thinks her kid may have died for a second, she's freaking out. Like, no one can explain that fear to you. Nobody can, you know, adequately describe the horror and the terror you feel when you think your child may be injured, lost, kidnapped, whatever, dead. And so you kind of get to see that moment where she's so scared that her kid could be hurt, even just in birth, that she gives into this crazy experimental Arkangel program. And then at the end, this is what ends up losing her. She gets to see those flashes of her child and what she lost, and the mistakes that she's made. It's a very sad episode, but I think it also is a great lesson for parents to step back and really consider what is okay, what is acceptable behavior, and to what extent do we let our kids be themselves, go out and risk some injuries and heartbreak and dumb decisions. Like, we all tried drugs once. Some of us tried drugs way more than that. Not me. I honestly didn't get into the drug thing, but we all tried it, most of us anyway. And we all had sex probably before we should have, and with people we shouldn't have. But those are life experiences, and people can intrude on that kind of stuff. We can protect our children. But anyway, I'm not going to go on too much about it, but this really got me as a parent. And I'm curious on how other people will feel about this episode as a person without kids, or a person who like is one of those people who's like, fuck kids, or like, I don't even know why people have kids, or I would never have kids, they're shitty. Like, I feel like this episode will be lost on those kind of people. Like, I don't give a fuck. Or maybe there are people out there who would want to be this overbearing, and they totally feel for the mom, and they're like, oh, the daughter overreacted or whatever. I don't know. But for me personally, it truly made me think about what I will do in the future. So this one's going to stick with me for sure. So, all right, on to the next.